This is my Defender 110 and it is supposed to be the perfect platform to build my dream vehicle from, but not everything is going to plan. And unfortunately, the last 2 weeks have made me aware that I've made a big mistake. I've always been very trusting of people and hopeful that they're honest, but unfortunately this wasn't the case with the person I bought this Defender from. And this has only become apparent to me after beginning to do some modifications on this vehicle. And it seems like every time I go to do something, I seem to find an issue. And that's why I decided to make this video. I wanted to show you guys exactly what's wrong with this vehicle and reach out and hopefully get some advice. And that brings us to today. Hey guys, unfortunately this isn't the initial video I'd planned on making this week, but with what has gone on the last 2 weeks, I think it's important to update you guys and let you know what the current situation with the Defender is. Now, if we go back to when I first bought it, it had a puncture in the front left tyre. The seller did make me aware of that, but what he didn't tell me was that he had taken it to a garage, had it looked at, and the puncture was in the sidewall. And the reason I know that he knew this was simply down to the fact that there were no weights on this tyre. So obviously I had to replace that tyre. Now that tyre was actually a fairly new one already, so it was quite frustrating that that tyre had to be replaced. Now the other issue is that all three of the other tyres had been rotated on the rims, and that meant that any of the damage on the sidewall of the tyres had then been put onto the inside so that it was no longer visible when you looking at the vehicle. Now I don't know if he had this done just before selling the vehicle, but these tyres obviously being 200 quid each, I'm sure he didn't want to outlay £800 or so on having the tyres replaced. Now that's pretty frustrating for me, because once I replaced that front left tyre and spent the 200 quid on that, I got a puncture in the rear right tyre. Now that wouldn't even hold the air, so I took the tyre off to inspect it, and that's when I found that the sidewall was completely cracked and perished, and there was a split in it. Now I thought, if that one's that bad, maybe I should take a look at the other two and see how bad those two are. The other rear one was almost as bad as this one, but not quite as bad. And then the front one wasn't as bad, but it's clear that all the tyres had been rotated around on the rims to hide the sidewall cracking. So I went out and bought a set of Boost alloy wheels to basically get me by until I get the bigger ones that I eventually want to get. Obviously, it is frustrating. Hopefully I can get the money back for the Boost alloy wheels when it comes to being able to afford to buy the tyres I initially wanted to get. But I think that is probably the least of my worries at the moment. Now I was told that the advisories for the wheel bearings was actually done. The wheel bearings were replaced, but once I had that front left tyre replaced, I was driving the vehicle and noticed that I'm still getting a lot of vibration in the steering. Now, obviously, initially it was from the wheel not being balanced, but now that is still happening, I jacked up the vehicle and checked, and you could clearly tell that both the front wheels need the wheel bearings replaced. So that's going to be about 100 quid for the parts. I need a couple of tools, so I'm going to have to order those. That's probably going to be another 50 quid or so for the spanners, press and stuff like that. Then we have another issue. Now this issue is to do with the dashboard. A lot of the lights on the dashboard don't actually work. You can see here we're getting the flashing light for the alarm. Okay, that works fine. Well, it must work. And then we get a light on there for the headlights, a light on there for the indicators, and a light on there for the battery when you put it on 2 clicks. We don't get any light for the glow plugs. I don't know if that's meant to be on this vehicle. I'm pretty sure that all diesel vehicles after a certain age would have had this. And then we don't have any lights to show that the handbrake's on. We don't have any lights for any of the other things such as the tow bar, the brights and stuff like that. So those all need to be fixed and sorted out. Now the thing I do find a bit strange was the fact that the engine is actually a 300 TDI engine, not a TD5 as what this vehicle should be. It is not a huge issue. Obviously this 300 TDI engine is pretty good, so it doesn't bother me hugely. This engine number was on the logbook, but it's a bit weird that someone would swap a TD5 out for a 300 TDI, unless there was a lot of issues on the TD5. But what I don't know is what the mileage actually is. I was told it was around 180,000, which does probably insinuate that it hasn't got a huge amount of life left in it. But we just keep this going, and maybe eventually we can get a M57 swap or just put a newer 300 TDI in here. Now, what I did find looking under the bonnet was that we have a power steering leak. This has made a bit of a mess on my driveway. I tried to repair it because he said he put a new power steering pump on, which you can see there's a brand new one on there. I thought maybe it's just a case of tightening the hose, but this didn't seem to solve it. I replaced the hose and the new one's even worse. So I wonder if maybe the power steering pump isn't a Defender one or if it's just a cheap knockoff. So we need to somehow sort out that issue. We then have another quite a severe issue, which is numerous oil leaks. We have the sump leaking out of the sump plug. The sump gasket is leaking. We have a leak on the oil filter housing and also a leak on one of the injectors, as well as the rocker cover. Now, the injector one, I don't know if that was there when I first bought it, but it's definitely appeared since doing those 300 miles that I've done since buying it. I don't know if maybe there was one and it was covered up. So I'm pretty annoyed by that, because that needs to be rectified as soon as possible to give this engine the best chance of survival. And then I found out that we don't actually have a reverse light that works. Now, this obviously isn't required by law on vehicles before 2009, so it's not a huge issue, but I do want lights that work for when you're reversing, because you cannot see anything behind you. So I'm going to try and diagnose this issue, but I suspect that it may actually be the wiring harness. And the reason I suspect that is because when I was under the vehicle the other day, I found that the harness that runs from the front of the vehicle to the back of the vehicle has been resting on the exhaust and it has melted through it. When I noticed it, I was looking through it and there's at least 5 wires that have been melted through. I don't know what these wires are for. I need to find a diagram for the wiring and see if potentially this is the cause. But then it worries me, because what else is meant to be connected to it? Now, there's another harness that is running there as well. So maybe they replaced the harness and just left the old one hanging loose. I don't know. That's something I need to look into. So that's definitely something I will be trying to figure out this weekend. I do definitely want to get the reverse light working, because it is just a bit safer to have that. Also, I'm going to fit a reverse camera. So obviously we need the reverse light working for the reverse camera to work. I can just wire one in with a switch, but it's not the same. And it would probably get annoying, because I'll probably end up driving off with the reverse light on all the time. Now, annoyingly, this is going to cost a fortune to get all this stuff done. So if you guys want to support me in any way possible, I have got a store which I sell graphics, t-shirts and stuff like that on it. So please do head over to my store and check it out. This is the web address and it's also linked in the description down below. Any of the money raised from my store goes straight back into my channel and it supports me making more content. The other way you can support me, if you don't want to spend any money, is by simply hitting the like button, sharing this video, and also subscribing to my channel. And guys, if you remember from my last video, I mentioned that in this video I'll be updating you guys on that giveaway. The prize will consist of a couple of tools and accessories. Now, this is just a thank you for subscribers and the support you guys have given to my channel. So if you guys want to be in with a chance of winning, then do hit that subscribe button and also comment down below what vehicle you drive, or your dream vehicle if you don't drive, as well as any modifications you think I should do to the Defender. And here's the fun part: the more views this video gets, the more I'll add to the giveaway. So share it around, drop your comment down below, and good luck, guys. Now, when working under the bonnet, I did find that there were numerous wires missing. Now, there's no wiring going to the brake reservoir, which means we won't ever get a warning if there's an issue with that. There's no wiring going to the oil sensor and the coolant temperature sensor. So I don't know if this vehicle has any oil pressure issues or if there's any coolant issues. And that's pretty frustrating and also probably a bit dangerous. So I need to sort that out as soon as possible. Now we come to the chassis. Annoyingly, the chassis seemed really good because I checked it from the driver's side. The passenger side was parked against the hedge, which I didn't think was suspicious because the space required to get past the vehicle down a drive which was shared with the other neighbours to the cellar. Now, I didn't go under the passenger side to check it because it was parked against a hedge. I went under the driver's side, poked a screwdriver around, checked it all. It looks fairly clean on the driver's side. It looks fairly clean on the passenger side, but when you go in from the passenger side and check it, it's that side that definitely needs some welding done. We have the outrigger that's going to need replacing or welding, probably a patch on it. And then we have a fair bit of corrosion, especially towards the back of the vehicle. Now we do obviously have the galvanized rear cross member put onto there, so that's a big bonus, but obviously the rest of the chassis needs to be protected. So I'm going to have to treat it all and then coat it with something to make sure that we get the most out of the life of the chassis. Now, if you guys have any suggestions on what I can use on a chassis, do let me know in the comments down below because I would really appreciate any advice. I want to make sure that this chassis lasts as long as it can. And as bad as that all is, that's not even the worst part because things have gotten worse since. It's something that has changed the whole direction this Defender is going to go, and it deserves its own video. So if you want to see the next part of this Defender nightmare, make ssure you're subscribed because part 2 is where things get really interesting. I'll see you in the next one.